Hello Mega Man Universe, and welcome to Game Theory. No, seriously though, what's up guys, it's Cliff. So with Luminous Avenger coming up, a lot of you are probably wondering, hey, what's this? Why is it in the group? And most importantly, what's an X? Well, I got you on the first two, but for the X part, truth be told, I have no fucking idea, and I've even played the entire series. This has never come up before. Seriously, what is it with this series and everyone having to have an edgy title? Like, it's not bad enough we have the Muse, and the Mighty, and the Azure Striker, and all the tiger and dragon analogies. Then over here we got this nice little edgy boy named Copen. Nope, not edgy enough. He's X now. Could be worse though, at least the X in his name isn't a fucking plot point. Jesus Christ, Kingdom Hearts was a mistake. That being said, Gunvolt is one of the more enigmatic examples of an IP, shall we say, and for those who need a refresher before the third installment or have never heard of the series, I'm here to break down exactly why this series is one of the best and simultaneously worst platformers out there. I'll be as concise as I can while going over all the strengths and weaknesses of these games, and yes, this is going to be pretty spoiler heavy, can't really get into the good and the bad here without going over the plot, but don't worry, if you don't know the series, it's probably best to get this out of the way anyway. This plot kinda sucks. So Azure Striker Gunvolt is a series partly produced by a guy named Keiji Inafune, who we all probably know better for this train wreck than what got him famous at this point, and is made by a company called IntiCreates, the guys who made Mega Man Zero, Mega Man ZX, or ZX for those who don't enjoy barbecues and freedom, Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, Blaster Master Zero, and this unholy affront against Palutena. So basically this series takes place in the near future where some people have started to develop superpowers. These people are called mutants. Sorry, adepts. Not mutants. This is Japan. They're adepts. Anyway, these adepts are seen as a threat and are scary and discriminated against, and thus this long-standing group called Sumeragi steps in. They ensure peace and order in an adept-filled world. Yay, it's all gumdrops and ice cream, except they kind of hunt down and conduct experiments on adepts on the side, and no one really talks about that. Other adepts choose to sell their abilities to Sumeragi for power and put their abilities in these little anime transformation swords called glaives, and these guys work as their big enforcers. So a couple people, adept and normal alike, figure out what's going on and make a resistance named Quill, which is an acronym for Quorum, for unrestricted for the good guys, consisting of supposedly about 100 members, but we only see 3 besides our character. 2 milquetoast operators who have no purpose whatsoever, and this objectively trustworthy looking dude by the name of Asimov. He'll be important later. Recently, Quill has figured out that Sumeragi has a big evil plan to control the world by tracking down and eliminating all the adepts. Oh no! So thus our edgy blonde-haired protagonist, Gunvolt, is sent to take down this evil plan. Woo! Fighting bad guys and stuff. We're on our way to stop the Diva Project. Yes, that's the name, and it is going exactly where you think it is. The Sumeragi guys are using the power of J-pop, yes, J-pop, did I stutter, and use a Winged Hatsune Miku ripoff's music to track adepts. Yes, this is actually their big evil plan, and I wish I was kidding. This is the game. Into the action we go after a cutscene and exposition or two, where we see the gameplay of the series, which is honestly just fucking awesome. You're basically taking Mega Man Zero gameplay, just making it a little bit smoother, because there's no break between dashes anymore, and yeah, you lose your dash wall jump, but hey, you can't win them all. The big difference in the gameplay is Gunvolt himself, because my god, this fucker is absolutely broken. He has a pervasion ability attached to one of his items that makes it so you can just tank any damage unharmed as long as you have Septima Charge. That's what adept powers are called, by the way. And you can create a flash field of electricity at any time to slow descent or attack enemies. Now the flash field itself isn't very powerful, but Gunvolt can use his gun, which fires darts of his highly conductive hair, yes, that's the explanation, to tag a target and make them a lightning rod to drink their health. He can also use this to control elevators and turn on lights and basically do whatever else the plot needs it to. And he can recharge himself at will, so basically as long as you don't get hit while your charge is low and you don't let yourself overheat, you're pretty much invincible, and my god, it is fun. So anyway, you run through the Sumeragi train, kill a few bad guys, blow up a tank or two, and then you find this Lumin, and turns out it's not a program like you all thought. She's actually the embodiment of a Septima with her own personality, and that Septima belongs to a lolly. Gunvolt kills the lolly, and thus the story is over. I wish. No, instead the lolly goes, hey, can you, get me out of here? Cause, I just want to sing and not be a weapon and shit. And Asimov's like, nope, so sorry, I gotta kill her. And she's like, oh, okay, that's reasonable. And then Gunvolt decides he needs to be every other weeaboo and protect the lolly. So he's like, okay, I quit, I'm gonna go take care of her. And Asimov's like, okay, that's reasonable, we'll just keep hiring you for all our missions anyway. And Gunvolt's like, cool, sounds good, and he picks up the lolly and leaves. So we jump forward a bit. Gunvolt is working out of his apartment part-time with Quill to hunt down Sumeragi adepts, and Joule, that's her name by the way, is going to school now and basically becomes irrelevant for a little bit unless you want to do the assist conversations in the base. levels. These are fairly pointless and are just text versions of your typical slice of life anime, though one stops to Shell Mighty number 9 because Inafune is incapable of understanding when a horse is dead and continues to beat it. Otherwise, these are just the stereotypical lolly crushing on savior storyline that are completely missable unless you want the most broken ability in the game. Every adept has an ultimate ability. Gunvolt has several he unlocks through the game, but Lumen also has one, and it is stupid good. If somehow you die in a level, there's a chance that Lumen will activate Anthem, at which point she starts singing the title track and you resurrect with infinite charge, air dashes, and air jumps. But to get this, you have to do at least one assist conversation, and it resets after each level. Towards the back half of the game, this becomes really helpful, so it's a pick your poison kind of thing. There's also augmentation crafting, but honestly, they're not very good abilities, and you make them off of random drops, which you primarily get from beating extra missions for levels which only unlock after you beat the level. You can only do them if you select them manually, up to 3 at a time, are tiered for no apparent reason, and can be registered as incomplete even if you already completed the condition on your first try. So honestly, they're just a time sink and not really worth much attention. The mods that really matter are to your gun, and you get those automatically from beating the levels. Anyway, this is where we get into the meat of Gunvolt 1, and I need to stop and underline something here because depending on which mode we Westerners pick to play will depend on your experience a bit. The game isn't very different overall. It's mostly a difference of Maya eating burgers or ramen kind of thing, and it makes different dialogue lines cringier than others per side. But in the Japanese version, my god, there's a lot of talking. Not only do all the interactions with characters have Japanese voice acting and slightly different dialogue, characters will be talking the entire level. After the intro stage, you can change how this works or shut it off completely, but there's voice acting, a portrait of who's talking, and a lot of text on the screen, and it's all over top of the level, which creates a lot of screen clutter. It can also be a problem in boss fights because if a boss is hugging the corner of the room, they can hide behind the portrait and you can't see them. Not to mention different sections are queued by where you are in the level, and the dialogue goes slower than Gunvolt, so to catch everything you actually have to slow yourself down. It's all filler text, so if you miss something, it's not the end of the world, but it still can be an annoyance. On to the real fighting we go. We have our 6 adepts we're matched up against and a level for each, so we're off to the battles. The levels themselves aren't anything too fancy. There's an underwater level with floodgates, a fire factory, a tower, a jungle, a lab, and a fancier version of a dark cave, but they're all pretty straightforward and fun. The tower can get a little tedious and the enemies get repetitive, but overall they're pretty good. As are the boss fights, though you will remember them for the fights and not the adepts themselves. All of their personalities are either generic or cringe, ranging from a generic soldier to personified multiple personalities to pedophile Bakugo to a drug addict to a wannabe knight to a guy who literally just wants to go back to his basement to play Warcraft. And out of all the adepts here, the only one that's particularly relevant is the 7th adept, who is the midway boss. But that's all good because you're buzzing around at super high speeds to a pretty good soundtrack, shooting bad guys and zapping them down and racking up combo points, and if you get 1,000 of these points, Lumen starts to sing her J-pop for you in the level, which for you J-pop fans out there you go, it's your personal dream. For everyone else, don't worry, you can just touch a checkpoint or take a hit to shut her up. After 3 adepts get taken down, you get buzzed for a force mission in which you're tracking a hyper-powerful flirtatious hermaphrodite by the name of Zonda. You get through his maze of mirror portals and illusions to catch up with him, only for him to get wharfed immediately by, hey, we know this guy. His name is Copen. Basically, he's a regular human. Him and his pops were both Sumeragi scientists, and his dad said, hey, these adept guys could take over and all, we should be careful, but then he mysteriously dies. So now Copen's all edgy and made his own battle suit that ironically copies Septima powers to use on other adepts, and he hates Sumeragi along with all adepts, so since you're one, he's gonna have to kill you. Except not, because you kick his ass and he runs away like a little bitch, and then you just go back to zapping adepts into dust like nothing even happened. So cool, we murdered all of Sumeragi's big boys and we took their J-pop powers and the day is saved, hooray! Except not, because Gunvolt gets home and oopsie daisy, Joule's gone awaysy, because the 8th Sumeragi adept, the big boy Nova, who is basically irrelevant besides the next few minutes here too, mind you, brought back Warcraft guy and all the rest of the adepts by the same ancient hexes that Sigma and Frankenstein used called the Plot. And Warcraft guy kidnapped Joule, so Nova can use her to finish Project Muse now. Oh boy, better go stop him. Asimov offers to help you raid the big Sumeragi base, which is super nice of him, except outside of flavor text you'd have no idea he was even there because he does absolutely nothing in your field of view and then goes AWOL. Oh no, poor Asimov. I hope he is okay and is not really evil and going to try and kill us later. That would be so unexpected. So you go through the base, which is an orbital elevator, never seen that before, and you kick some of the same guys' butts until you get back to multiple personality disorder and face all 3 of her, this time in her true form. You fight her until it's established you can't win, and then when all hope seems lost, here comes the anti-warp beam again, and blammo! There she goes, and who could it possibly? Yeah, it's just Copen again. Because in his mind, it's a good idea to kill the adept you're struggling with, and then try and fight you, even though you've already kicked his ass, but it's fine, guys, he's totally got you now. Spoiler alert, he doesn't. Gunvolt beats him down, verbally flips him the bird, and keeps on running to find Joule. So by the time we get to Nova, he's got Joule in a machine and is using Lumen's power himself, so get ready to crank up the banging theme for this epic final boss, which honestly, all things considered, isn't that bad. Basically, you zap Lumen once and she vanishes for a bit and the shield drops, so you just go in on Nova Nova, and as long as you're not stupid and go no charge, you can basically just Pervasion through all his screen vomit and kick his butt. And then he goes Gigantor and fights you again, even though you're in a vacuum now. It's kind of the same deal, as long as you don't take too long after he ults and let the insta-kill hit you. So yay, we're all good now. Sumeragi got messed up, and the Lawie's asleep, and we're carrying her out of here. Look, even Asimov is here to greet us. And now he's evil! Wow, no one saw that coming. And now he mugged Copen and stole his anti-septima gun. Man, Copen just cannot catch a break today, can he? So Asimov monologues for a second about making it a paradise and all, pulls out his Schwarzenegger card to do a hasta la vista. No, really, he actually does. And then he shoots you both. And you die. That's the ending. You're dead. Like, actually dead. Or are you? Strap in, boys, this is where the real bullshit starts. All of a sudden, Gunvolt wakes back up in his apartment, and Joule is there too, and Gunvolt's like, what in the Deus Ex Machina is going on right here? And Joule's just like, I don't even know if this is real, but maybe we have a chance to fix that outcome, so if you find something fishy, maybe you should show it to me. And yes, I am giving you 100% of the context that the game does. There is no excusable reason for this to even exist, but we're here now. And this is where the backtracking starts if you weren't thorough and just sped through the levels, because the 7 main levels, including Zonda's, all have a Joule in them somewhere that you're supposed to give to Joule so she can make you a necklace. Yes, this is the solution to the Asimov shooting you problem. And there is no way for you to do this the first time. You actually have to die for this to work, because the game takes Joule away before you can give her the last Joule, even if you find them all the first time. My god, this is dumb! So what you have to do to get the true ending now is you have to go back and beat Nova's stage while wearing the necklace that Joule gave you the entire time. No sweat, right? Until you remember that in your customization, your Pervasion is attached to your necklace. So now you have to fight Nova again with no Pervasion. I think you can use Anthem for this, but even then it's not nearly as strong with no Pervasion, so time to get good or you'll be here a while. Everything goes exactly the same as last time, except now when Asimov shoots you, you don't actually die because the bullet hits the necklace. What in the name of anime is going on at this point? Joule is dead, but her consciousness moved over to Lumen, so she's floating there seeing you bleeding out, notices you're wearing the necklace and gets all flustered and is like, I have to save him! So she pops into your head, yes, Joule is now an entity in your head, did I stutter, and kicks on the anthem so you're alive and good to go, and once you get done being edgy about your dead lolly, you can put your Pervasion back on. It's time to go stop Asimov. You kick the last asshole who didn't pop back up's ass along the way and square up with Asimov heading back down the elevator, who turns out is an Azure Striker too, and he can do everything you can because why wouldn't he? Cue the most bullshit fight in the series as Asimov uses all the different firing types you have with Copen's Nullifier, and even with Anthem, I swear sometimes dodging these is pure luck. He uses your best ult against you, which can almost one-shot you, and is also kind of luck if you can dodge or not, all the while you're doing trickle damage to him, and it's just dumb and it's stupid and fuck that fight, it's just no. Anyway, you eventually kill Asimov and finish going down the elevator where Milquetoast 1 and 2 are waiting and go, oh no, what happened? And Gunvolt just quietly walks off into the distance mumbling something about hearts and darkness and nobodies, or at least he should have at this point, because what in the name of Sora is happening right now? And that's about it for Gunvolt 1. There's some bonus levels if you want them, but they're just boss rushes or mishmashes of different segments of levels you've already done, so that's not really anything else notable. There's a decent time elapsed between Gunvolt 1 and Gunvolt 2, though we're not exactly sure how long. Basically, Sumeragi is still struggling to figure out what to do now with Nova out of the way and the Diva Project dead, but not to worry because their airship is immediately hijacked by another organization called Eden and its leader, Zonda? Didn't Copen already beam him up though, Scotty? And thus we are thrown right into the action with our now 2 playable characters trading off screen time in the intro stage. Gunvolt, who is there because, I don't know, being a pro tag, aided by Joule, who's still a spirit in his head that only he could see and hear, and Copen, who's chasing after this ship searching for this girl whose name I cannot pronounce if my life depended on it. I've heard it in the voice acting so many times, but my lips just can't form the sound without it feeling wrong. It's Meatloaf. We're gonna go with Meatloaf because that's as close as I can get here. Once again, the gameplay shows to be the series' strong point, and the soundtrack is upgraded to boot. Gunvolt handles exactly like he did in the first game, with the sole exclusion of having a dash wall jump now, making every Mega Man Zero fanboy squeal with joy. He lost all his ults, but you can get them back through the course of the game as well, along with finding a few new ones. Copen, on the other hand, handles like a dream. He has a pseudo flash field to block projectiles now, and a Pervasion like Gunvolt. He also utilizes the same lock-on feature, except his is by dashing crashing into enemies, bouncing off them, and gunning them down, which can even bypass shields and stuff and just feels awesome. Not to mention that he has fucking rocket boots that he can use to burst through the air at high speeds or fly diagonally and kick off walls and ceilings, and look at him go, he's bouncing around like a goddamn kangaroo. This is amazing. He also has a spunky droid assistant with him to be his version of Joule named Lola, and Lola is quite useful herself. Not only does she create the flash shield, we'll call it, she also can use EX weapons which channel adept powers. You add to these as you go, but you start with Gunvolt Zap, and she also gives Copen a screen wiping ult of his own. Now why he tossed all the old adept powers and never rebuilt his anti-Septima gun is beyond me, but you know what, honestly this is fine. This is platforming fun at its finest, and I love it. Basically the intro is about the same as last time. Buzz around, kill some shit, blow up a Gundam or two along the way, and try and stop the ship from crashing into civvies. Copen runs into Lady Zonda, who turns back into Guy Zonda, and Copen's like, "Fist of the North Star reference though, how are you here?" And Zonda's like, "You only killed a copy of me because of my mirror Septima." And Copen's like, "Alright, this is a fucking anime, isn't it?" And Zonda's like, "You don't even know the half of it yet," and takes off. This is where we first find Meatloaf with Gunvolt, who is, of course, another lolly, and has a striking resemblance to Joule. We also notice that Joule starts to get all woozy and stuff around Meatloaf, and her anime bullshit doesn't work as well around her. Huh, isn't this weird? So with Gunvolt and a half-power Joule and a laser from Lola all going at the same time, we're able to redirect the ship, and yay, it crashes somewhere else. At least we think. The only thing to show us that is a text box, but whatever, the plot says it went somewhere else, so it did. Cool. And then Gunvolt floats back down with Meatloaf and sees Copen and goes, "Oh, hey, buddy, thanks for the laser back there." And Copen's eyeliner starts showing it. He's like, "Give me Meatloaf." And Gunvolt's like, "I mean, you'll have to give me a bit to cook it first," but like, and then they both get frozen in place by this squinty guy, Tenjion, who is the number 2 in Eden. Zonda pops up and is like, "Mwahaha, I have you now." And Joel appears and goes, "It's my man's hoe, get your own," and snaps in a circle at him. But Zonda's like, "Gotcha, bitch," because he somehow can see and hear Joel, even though we just got done saying that's an exclusive thing to Jeeves, and he traps her in a mirror so Tenjion can break it into pieces. Wait, hold on. How do you trap an incorporeal being in a corporeal object? You know what? The better question at this point is, why do I keep trying to rationalize this? It's all anime bullshit. So Zonda laughs and reveals his true form now, which is another fucking lolly. Yes, Zonda is also a fucking lolly. Did I fucking stutter? And she's like, "We're Eden and we're gonna use the muse to wipe out humans because of Deb's rule, hee 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 hee." And then yeets herself out of there so Gunvolt can beat up Tenjion and Lola can yoink one of the mirror pieces for the sole purpose of pissing him off. Tenjion bails and Jeeves goes, "Hey, that shard is part of Joule, give it back." And Copen's like, "Nope, fuck you, racism, mommy never loved me." And he takes off with Lola and Meatloaf. So Jeeves is all pissed off because of Joule, and then all of a sudden she starts talking again because they took most of her powers but couldn't take her consciousness. And here I was hoping I might get a break from this bitch for 10 minutes, but now she's still here and she's a lolly again, just with the Lumen outfit now. Great. Does anyone know a chiropractor? I'm gonna need to get my spine fixed by the time we're done here. Now this is where the game breaks into 2 parts. Gunvolt and Copen handle independently from each other, but the core points are about the same. Still the same slice of life anime assist conversations to Q and Anthem chants, which admittedly are more interesting this time, as low of a compliment as that is. Same mission select, same crafting that's a little better, all that jazz. Otherwise, Copen's lab and Gunvolt's residence are their own worlds, and their games mirror it, even having their own staff, music, continuity, and anthems. Oh yeah, by the way, Copen puts the shard into Lola to test it, and guess what? She turns into a fucking singing lolly too. You know what? Fine, I have no fight left in me. That's fine. This is fine. It's not fine. Nothing about this is fine. Copen has Lola and his little sister Meatloaf on his side, along with the family maid named Nori. God, we really need to lay on the cliches around here, don't we? Meatloaf has no voice and can't walk and is super sick, but science can't figure out why, so everyone tries their best to help her out and keep her company. They also mention she has a muse sensitivity, so keep that in mind. We'll get back to this. But she's a really kind-hearted girl, and turns out Copen is actually a really caring big brother and stuff, and aw, look at that, maybe he's not a complete douche canoe after all. Gunvolt's side is significantly less interesting. We're completely done with Quill, so now we have these two staring into the middle distance uselessly, though at least they're actually involved in the assist conversations this time, so you have a semblance of a reason to care about them. Admittedly, Quinn is actually a sweetheart and has a few cute moments to go with her uselessness, though Joel trying to jock with her for attention while Quinn isn't fighting back at all gets old quick. Yes, by the way, fuck the rules, Quinn has no Septima at all and is the only other person that can see and hear Joel because fucking reasons. Whatever, it's just side conversations, it doesn't matter. Same as Joel being all possessive of Gunvolt. You are a dead lolly in his head, get out of here. Also, there is no burger mode and ramen mode this time. The game completely runs in Japanese mode, but this time you can turn off the voice acting or all of the screen clutter right away, so if you prefer the English mode, that's an easy fix. politics. Into the action we go as both Gunvolt and Copen start chasing Eden Adepts to get the mirror shards. There are 7 Eden Adepts in total, and the only overlap between the two sides is Tenjion because grudge match and playable character face-off. So Gunvolt gets a pretty cool Castlevania level, a fairly creative cyberspace level, and an annoying sewer level, while Copen gets another tower, a really cool highway level including a chase fight on Nori's bike. Wow, look at that, an assistant being useful, that's a first, and a pretty run-of-the-mill junkyard level, while both share a surprisingly decent ice level. Combo points are still a thing, though there's different setups for them now, and 1,000 gets your partner to sing, which again is easily shut off if it's bothersome. The song selection is the same for both, minus their anthem, so don't expect anything new, and I'll admit some of Lola's are kinda catchy, though I don't like Joule's at all. The boss fights are once again awesome, and the bosses themselves are once again awful, this time featuring a bratty little girl, an internet troll, a total edgelord, a rather forgettable ocean lover, a lady who reads way too many horoscopes, a wannabe chef, and my personal favorite that I strictly refer to as Drizzy Dre because he only speaks in shitty rhymes. And if you thought the enemy ult names were cringy last time, wait until you see Entangled Strands, Frigid Blossom, and my favorite coming in the clutch again with Poetry Slam, a crystal attack whose name has zero meaning. After beating down Zonda's minions, we get a call in for another mission, sending Gunvolt to the highway stage and Copen to the sewers for a quick boss fight of one of the opposite side's bosses, just to real quick establish that Zonda's kidnapped Meatloaf again and is getting ready to move forward with the plan. And this is another part where the continuity gets foggy, because both protags are supposedly raiding the same areas of the Eden base at the same time without seeing each other and fighting bosses that the other supposedly already killed, not to mention final boss overlap, so we're gonna slap a TBD label on what actually happened here and just keep moving. So after tearing through the bosses each side didn't see yet, you get to the boss rush section again. Though at least there's actually a passable explanation for why these guys are all back this time, courtesy of Zonda's mirrors creating fakes. That's a nice change. You tear through them again real quick and catch up to Zonda, and here's the big reveal we've been waiting for. So besides the whole Zonda trying to use the muse to slay humans thing, Meatloaf is so important here because turns out Joule didn't have Septima at all. The muse is actually Meatloaf's and was too powerful for her body as the child, and her dad got the Frankenstein book back out and cut it out of her, which led to him presumably getting capped by Sumeragi and the muse getting put into Joule. And this is why Meatloaf is all sickly and can't speak and shit. Oh hey, Kingdom Hearts, didn't know you snuck back in on me. I swear to God, this is some Kyrie nominee Shion level bullshit going on right now, but you know what, at least the story elements fit this time, so I guess it's tolerable? Gunvolt doesn't really get anything new, so he just squares up for battle, while Copen has to go straight into denial that his sister is the very thing he seeks to destroy. Crank up the speakers for an epic Sinner's Row remix. It's time to fight Zonda, who is switching genders about as rapidly as characters on DeviantArt to throw different abilities at you, including using both forms at once and inverting the stage for shits and giggles. To no one's particular surprise, these Zondas are just copies, and the real one is ahead with Meatloaf, who is now floating and magically rips Joule from Jeeves, or Lola's lolly form and the shards from Copen. Apparently now whatever unsaid bullshit needed to be done to them is done, so Zonda can absorb the muse and become Lumine. She's basically Lumine, and her one ult is even Paradise Lost. Subtle, guys. Subtle. Now this fight is particularly notorious, and this problem was fixed in the Switch version, but I had to play this on the DS, so we need to talk about this, because this is where the cringe hits max. For Copen, this is a standard fight. Zonda uses Eden's presence as her ult, Copen kicks her butt, we move along. For Gunvolt, though, this is where shit gets weird. Once you hit the last third of the fight, Zonda starts to taunt you that you don't have Lumen's power anymore, whips out Paradise Lost, and starts to sing herself, and it does damage to you that there's no way out of until Jeeves remembers what Joule said right before she got vacuumed to Zonda, that her song was still inside him. The microphone kicks on the DS, and lyrics on the screen. It wants you to sing the Weeb song. I need an aspirin. Thankfully, the microphone registers sound, not song, so if you want to sing, you can, or you can sing something else, or just activate it from laughing at it like I did. This stops Zonda's song and cues an a cappella version of Reincarnation, which the game encourages you to sing, but like, no. Just no. Anyway, you kill Zonda at long last, but at a heavy price. Joule is gone from existence and Meatloaf went bad in the fridge. Your respective protag has a mini meltdown over their preferred lolly until the other shows up, at which point Copen proceeds to in Jeeves' general direction and demand a fight to the death. Now, you don't actually get to play this right away. To wrap things up, you have to beat Zonda with both characters and then do it again. It's kind of annoying, but it's a sight better than the last time with the necklace, so whatever, dude, Chili Dog's gotta go fast. So you get back here to do this fight, and it honestly goes exactly the same as the mid-boss version in Tenjion's level, except you actually kill the other character this time. And right as you kill them, Meatloaf just undeads herself because reasons and goes, lol, nope, starts levitating, creates an apparition of Joule, takes over Lola, and starts singing. And the other side comes back to the singing of 3 lollies this time after we just killed a 4th. Moral of the story, this series loves them some lollies. So now you gotta fight the other character with Anthem. For Copen, there is basically no change to tactic, just, oh, I'm sorry, he's got the anti-septima gun again for no reason. Boy, I don't know where that came from and would have loved to use that at some point. Jeeves, on the other hand, can't be hit as he normally would be, and a hint from the sewer level is supposed to tell you to use the water EX skill on him to shut his powers off long enough to get a lock on him, or the pervasion just goes on forever. Either way, one side gets knocked down and Meatloaf passes back out. As the one left standing gets ready to finish the job, Meatloaf pops back up and tells them to stop. Yes, she can talk now, by the way. She starts to tell Jeeves that Copen is her brother, and Copen that she cares for Jeeves, but in the middle of her sentence, she just contracts complete amnesia. Regardless of who's left standing, Jeeves leaves on his own, and Copen takes Meatloaf to a hospital to find out that she's properly cooked now. The continuity lines back up per side for their endings. Jeeves goes back to his normal life, where he and Quinn eventually run into Nori and Meatloaf while out shopping. Meatloaf says he seems familiar and asks if he knows her, to which he says sorry no and just keeps walking, despite Quinn trying to tell him otherwise. Copen, on the other hand, proceeds to throw any likability he gained from this game out the window. Faced with a decision best made as either accepting adepts may not be all bad, or say fuck the police and pop Meatloaf in the head to carry on his path, he decides to go straight down the middle, leaving Nori's suggestions and his family behind to continue hunting adepts with nothing but his suit, Lola, and the MCR he has blasting in his headphones, even telling Nori to tell my aunt I died or something, and I fucking quote. Aware of what his sister is, he stands by his creed to not rest until adepts are no longer a thing, while also claiming to leave her out of his battles when his battle's completion means he'll have to kill her. Move over, Shadow, there's a new king of the edgelords in town and his name is Copen.
Damn, not here.
Meatloaf eventually stops having dreams of the guy who fought for her, it's never specified which, but it's implied for both sides, and goes on to have a happy life, hoping she finds this guy one more time to thank him and tell him that she's happy now. There's also a super secret ending that pops up if you finish enough of the side missions that reveals Nori had Meatloaf put the muse back into a glaive, which she for whatever reason decides to backdoor hand off to Jeeves' useless operator for him to do something with that doesn't involve Jeeves. His motives are unclear, and we're not sure if it's just Lumen again in the glaive, or if it's Joule, or if Joule is still kind of alive in Meatloaf, or if she's erased from existence. We'll have to revisit that later. And other than a bonus boss rush and special missions for Copen and Jeeves, where you play the opposites levels, that's where we leave off for X. The characters outside Copen and Lola are all new, and we're back to fighting Sumeragi. Apparently adepts are the majority now. Before we'll know it, we'll probably be opening schools to train them to be plus ultra. Whoops, sorry, wrong series again. Now, why Lola still has a lolly form, let alone a new gothic one, after Meatloaf took all the muse powers back, I have no fucking idea. I think the writers might have missed something on that one, and it's to be seen if Jeeves, Quinn, Xiao, Nori, Meatloaf, or the muse will be a factor in Luminous Avenger or not. I'd be surprised if at least a few of them didn't make an appearance, but we'll know soon enough. So yeah, in conclusion, this series plays good, it sounds good, but my god, it has some next level cringe going on. I'd honestly say for Mega Man fans, if you're interested, see if the plot is bearable for you. If you either like it or can ignore it, it plays so well and is really fun. If not, I really can't blame you. I'll probably be getting X myself just as an excuse to get more gameplay out of Copen, and I'll probably be pre-ordering it to get the Lola costume, not because I especially like it, mind you, but because somehow the Diva outfit is less cringe than what the new Lolly is wearing. I never thought in my life I'd be able to say that, but I am. I'm already preparing for my blood to curdle at the new plot development, so I'm going into this in pain, to be completely honest, but the gameplay, especially Copen's, is just too fun to pass up. Anyway, that's your official recap of the Gunvolt world. Hope you guys enjoyed. I had a lot of fun with this, and I hope I find an excuse to do something like this again. Thanks for watching, guys. Cliff out.